Hi, Michael Hellickson here for Club Wealth, and today we're talking about assistants. You know, it's often been said that if you don't have an assistant, you are one. And I want you to really think about that, write that down, and remember it, because it's true. If you don't have an assistant, you are one, and that means that you're doing all kinds of things that you shouldn't be doing in your business, things that someone else could be doing at a rate that's far less than what you and your time are worth. So let's talk about reasons why we want to hire an assistant. I want you to take a look over here. Number one is leverage, right? I want to leverage my time with other people's time. If I can leverage, I can now build an organization. Instead of being an entrepreneur, I can be a business owner. And I want you to think about that. Most real estate agents are entrepreneurs. If you leave your business for 6 months, or even 2 months, or even for many of you 2 weeks, what happens by the time you get back? Your business is chaos. You have to start over again. You're starting from scratch. Whereas for those of you that have teams in place, those of you that have at least one assistant, when you leave on vacation, you'll oftentimes come back and you'll have more business than when you left. That's when you know you've gone from being an entrepreneur to being a business owner. And that's the goal. If you want to reach 7th level, if you're a Keller Williams agent, or for the rest of us, if you want to reach that point where you're doing 7 figures of income working 12 days a month, you need leverage. So another thing that's important about this, another reason why you want to have an assistant, is peace of mind. You want to know that things are getting done. You want to know that people are being taken care of. You want to enjoy a higher quality of life. So instead of it having to be you 24/7, you want to have other people in place so that you can take an hour and go take the kids to their soccer game or whatever it is that you want to do, but it will increase your quality of life. Not only that, but your stress level will be reduced, and that alone helps your quality of life. You want to be able to offload the things that you don't want to do. Again, we're talking about quality of life here, and we're talking about making sure that those things get done to the highest level possible. Because if you're doing things that you don't enjoy doing in your business, guess what? You're not going to do a great job of it. But when you hire someone else who loves doing those things that you don't enjoy doing, guess what? Now they're done well. Now they're done at a high level, and your business reflects that result. All right, better customer experience. I want you to think about this for a minute. Your customers deserve and demand the best experience possible. And when you can consistently deliver the exact same high quality customer service and customer experience time and time again, guess what? You'll get more referrals, you'll have less complaints, you'll have less issues to work with or to deal with, and guess what? Now you'll be freed to go focus on what you as an agent need to focus on, which is lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion. All right. You'll also have fewer dropped balls. How often have you been in an appointment and something comes up, or you're on your way to an appointment and somebody contacts you and you jot something down, and then you go into your appointment, you get off onto 10 different things, and all of a sudden you forget what it was that you had to get done. It just slips your mind. And so balls get dropped. When you have a high quality assistant, that doesn't happen. Now remember, it's not enough to just have an assistant. You have to have the right assistant. That's critical. And I'm going to show you in a minute here exactly how to hire the right assistant. I'm going to show you what ads to place. I'm going to show you how to place them. I'm going to show you what to put in the ads. Everything you need to know in order to hire the right people for your team and to ensure that you have the right people in the right positions on the bus. We're going to show you how to do that. All right, you also, at the end of the day, get more money in your pocket. Again, this has to do with leverage. If you want to make 7 figures a year in real estate, it's next to impossible, unless you're in a market where it's super high price points and you want to work yourself to the bone. To make a solid 7-figure income in real estate, you've got to leverage. And for those of you that are saying, well, gosh, I really don't need to make 7 figures, that's fine. I understand that. But at the end of the day, you will make more money in less time, and your dollars per hour, DPH, your dollars per hour, will be much higher when you leverage your time with others people's time and have a high quality assistant on your team. All right, so let's talk about the different types of assistants. There's lots of different types of assistants out there. There's all kinds of administrative assistants, and we'll talk about those first. You've got your executive assistant. This would be your right-hand person that takes care of everything for you, manages your calendar, all kinds of stuff. And we'll get into the details as to what an assistant can do in a moment. But that executive assistant is really your right hand. Now, for some of you, when you're starting off, your first assistant is going to fill multiple roles here. They might be filling all of them, or they might be filling a bunch of them. But as time goes on, when your team grows like ours did, we grew to 44 team members at one point. Well, when you have 44 people on your team, you segment that workflow to such a finite level that each person has a very, very specific job duty. And what's really nice, the luxury that comes with that, is that you can ensure that people are doing exactly what they were born to do and what they enjoy doing, what they're best at, and they bring the most value to the team and to the clients by doing that. All right, listing coordinator. This is the person who takes care of all your listings from start to finish. You walk back into the office after having gone out and taken a listing. You're going to walk back, you're going to take your listing packet, you're going to drop it on her desk. She's going to take care of it from then forward. You're done. You don't have to do anything with that property. She's got it handled. And by the way, she'll do a better job of it than you ever would. So, listing coordinator, very important position on your team. My listing coordinator for years was a woman named Stephanie, and Stephanie was fantastic. One of the best things Stephanie did for me was I would come back and I would go to hand her my stack of papers, and she would look at me, and I kid you not, she would say to me, "What? Only 4 listings yesterday? What's wrong with you? Are you slipping? Did something happen? Did you get in a car accident?" And she would guilt me into taking at least 5 listings each and every day. Let me tell you, that was important to my success, and I was really thankful that I had an assistant that I had a relationship with that wasn't afraid to have that kind of conversation with me. I needed her to have that conversation with me so that I would be pushing myself to greater heights. All right, transaction coordinators. Transaction coordinator is absolutely a critical position in your company. You will, on your team, probably start off, your first assistant will be all of those first 3 things: the executive assistant, the listing coordinator, the transaction coordinator. She will fill all of those roles. Now, some of you are thinking to yourself, well, I already have a transaction coordinator, Michael. I have somebody I pay a fee to on a per transaction basis, and they handle those things for me. That's not the same thing, folks. She's got a checklist that she follows, and that's all she's going to do. You want your assistant to follow your checklist, not one that she's decided is her checklist or that your company's decided. You want and need an assistant that is your assistant, whose only interest is ensuring that your company succeeds at the highest level possible. That's what you need. All right. And when I say company, I mean team. I'm not talking about your brokers. I'm talking about your team. You want somebody who's focused 100% on your team. All right. Short sale negotiation. At one point in time, we had a whole department on my team that all they did was negotiate short sales. Not only for us, but for other agents around the country. And mark my words, short sales are cyclical, just like REO is cyclical. The real estate market as a whole is cyclical. So guess what? Even though right now, maybe it is, maybe it isn't a big short sale market, but someday that market will come back, and that position will be a valuable position on many of your teams. Some of you choose not to ever do short sales. That's okay. But for those of you that do and are good at it, you might want to consider having this person be in-house and offering that as a service to other agents as well. All right, marketing coordinator. Now, normally this is going to be the same as your listing coordinator in the beginning, unless you get a really large team. As your team starts to really grow, and you're doing 400 or 500 transactions a year and more. And let me tell you, a lot of you will be doing that. Many of the people watching this right now are already doing that. If you want to grow from 400 or 500 transactions a year to over 1,000 like I did, well, guess what? You're going to need a separate listing coordinator and marketing coordinator. You want people who are fantastic at that specific thing. Buyer's agents. These are hires that you make very, very early in the process. Generally speaking, for every 55 leads you have, unless you're in California, we'll talk about that in a second, but generally speaking, for every 55 leads, buyer leads that you have coming into your organization, you need to have one solid buyer's agent. And that buyer's agent, at a bare minimum, needs to be closing 2 transactions per month. Ideally, they're probably closing more like 4 or 5. If they're a rock star, they're closing 7 to 10 transactions a month. Now, if you're in California, I hate to single you guys out, but the reality is that buyer's agents in California are going to handle less on their plate than buyer's agents in other parts of the country, and the price points are reflective of this. And so in California, I might, depending on the market I'm in, I may only want to give my buyer's agents, let's say, 30 or 40 leads per month. But in any case, I want to make sure that each and every one of my buyer's agents has enough leads and that they are able to follow up with each and every one of those leads. So I don't want to give them so many leads that my leads are getting poor follow follow-up. It's all about pull-through here. I also want to make sure I'm tracking my ROI, not only based on lead source, but I want to be tracking my ROI based on buyer's agent. This is very important. All right, REO assistants. REO is a different animal than retail, and you need people that are trained specifically in REO in order to take care of your REO side of your business, and in particular your asset managers, at a high level. Now, at our peak, about half our business was REO and half of our business was retail. And I recommend that, by the way, because it gives you a nice balanced business, and you're not so REO focused that when the REO market dries up, your business goes away. And you're not so retail focused that when the REO market comes around, your business dries up and goes away. Now, I also want to cross-train my staff. I want my entire team cross-trained in all of these different things. Things happen, folks. People get hit by a bus. They get married and move off to another part of the country. They decide that it's not a good fit for them and they move on for some reason. You decide that it's not a good fit and decide it's time for them to move on. Things happen. People get sick. They have a day off, right? Whatever. Things happen. You need to have people cross-trained so that no matter what happens, if any one team member needs to move on or is not there for that particular day, that you have coverage and that your clients and your business and your team are taken care of. Very important. All right. ISAs. This is a very hot topic nowadays. ISAs are inside sales agents. Now, there's a lot of people that are using virtual assistants as ISAs, and that's okay at times. But you really need to analyze, what do I want my ISA to do? Are they going to make outbound calls, or are they going to be taking inbound calls? Are they going to be expected to do both? ISAs are fantastic and can really help even out the lead flow in your business. There's a conscious decision that has to be made as to what that role is and how that interacts with my buyer agent role. Is my ISA going to incubate all those leads before I hand them off to a buyer's agent? Am I maybe even going to incorporate a showing assistant into the mix? So there's a lot of factors. Folks, those of you that are Club Wealth members, I really recommend that you have this conversation with your coach, because it's not something that's simple enough for me to really convey properly in a video, because there's so much about your business that can have an impact on the decision you need to make with this. So this is a conversation. And for those of you that aren't Club Wealth members, if you haven't done so already, take advantage of a free strategy session with one of our coaches. Doesn't cost you anything. They'll walk you through this process. They'll take a look at your business and they'll decide, hey, this is what I would recommend in your business. And by the way, our coaches, all of them have done more business than you are currently doing. You are always matched with a coach that's doing what you would like to be doing, not what you are already doing. So believe me, you're talking to someone who's going to be able to give you advice at a high level. All right. So that's the different types of assistants, and we'll go into more of that another time. There's more that I can possibly mention on this short video, but I want you to understand that there are a lot of positions that will need to be filled as you scale your team up and grow it. So what are some of the things that your assistant should be doing for you? Let's talk about this. First and foremost, let's just say that you're the Lone Ranger agent and you're hiring your very first assistant. Number one, your assistant needs to print out all of your calls for the day. So whatever CRM you're using, you should be putting in next follow-up date in there for each and every one of those calls. Your assistant now is going to go in and she's going to print out your calls for today, hand them to you along with your calendar, your week at a glance calendar for this week and your week at a glance calendar for next week. Once you have all of that, you're ready to go jump in the car and do whatever you got to do, and you just need to focus on that little piece of paper and just making notes in the margin. A lot of you are thinking to yourself, well, Michael, why don't I just do that in front of the computer? And the reason is it's inefficient. You get sidetracked, you get distracted, and you're not nearly as efficient as if you do this on paper. Trust me, we've tried this a million different ways with a whole bunch of different people, from top producers on down to new agents, and believe me, it works much better if you print this information out. All right, I also want your assistant to print out your A+ and your A client list every single day. I want you to have that list in the car so that you can make those phone calls as well, because you constantly need to be touching those folks, inviting them to your next client event, for example. And by the way, if you haven't seen our blog on client events, you need to check it out. All right. Following up on yesterday's showings. This is something you don't need to be doing. One of the things you need to keep in mind is in the overriding question of what should my assistant do for you or for me, the answer is everything that I don't absolutely have to do for myself. If it's not something I have to do myself, I want my staff doing it. I should only be doing those things that only I can do. That's how you get the most out of your team. And that means spending a lot of time, effort, and energy training your team. You got to invest yourself in your team. Now, some people say, well, Michael, but why would I invest all that time in them when they're just going to quit down the road anyway? Well, maybe we are either hiring the wrong people if they're quitting on us. Maybe we're not the right person. Maybe we're not taking care of them like we should. Maybe we're a manager instead of a leader. That's something we need to consider. Am I a manager or am I a leader? And if I'm a leader, my people want to stay with me. If I'm a manager, I'm a dictator, right? If I'm a manager, people don't want to be managed. They want to be led. There's a difference. And so I need to look at my behavior and if that's having an impact. But at the end of the day, you have to invest yourself into your team. And to the extent that you do that, you can duplicate yourself. You'll have a phenomenal team that will want to perform. You'll have a cohesive team that will do their very best, not only for you because you want them to, but more importantly because they want to, because they take ownership in the company, because they take pride in what they do. And that's much better than you pushing them to get them to do what they need to be done. All right, so they're going to follow up on all the showings from this last weekend, for example. They're going to call the sellers, and they're going to give the sellers feedback from all the showings from the last weekend. They're going to prepare all your listing packets so that when they hand you your stack of stuff, you've also got a stack of all your listing packets ready to go. If you haven't already seen it, check out the 44-point listing appointment checklist blog that we did. If you want to see an amazing blog, when we first launched that blog, we were brand new. We first launched that thing, it was 3,000 hits in 2 hours on that blog. Unbelievable. So check it out. It's a great resource. Posting ads, all your Craigslist ads, anything, Facebook ads, everything, all the ads you can imagine, your assistant should be posting those ads. Prepping your showing appointments, making those phone calls to make sure it's okay to show those properties. Posting your Facebook ads. How about this? Prepping your swag, right? So if you're going to stop by with swag at one of your sellers' house, we talk about our internal marketing. That's your referral-based business. They can be preparing all of this. They can be preparing a map for all of your swag stops, right? So if you're going to pop by, a lot of people call it pop buys. So if I'm going to be doing these pop buys, I need a map on. So if I know that I've got appointments over in this part of town, I want to do all my pop buys in that part of town. And there's great resources for being able to do this very efficiently. They can print out all my flyers for my open houses, my listings, and all that good stuff. Prepping my marketing materials for door knocking if I'm in a door knock neighborhood. Updating my database. Prepping for events. Creating events on Facebook. How about creating and mailing the invites for the events? Setting up clients on home searches. There's so much they could be doing. Scheduling photo shoots for listings. Calling agents and getting their permission for us to market their listings. That's something your assistant can do. You don't even have to do that. There's just so much that an assistant can do. I'm not going to cover all of it right here. Tell you what we'll do. We'll make sure that we include a download so that you can get a list of all kinds of things, way more than I can possibly talk about here. At the end of watching this video, go to the download the information. We'll have that and a whole bunch of other stuff. In fact, we'll even have ads that give you the language that you need to use to attract the very, very, very best candidates to be assistants for you. All right, so how do I do it? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place a Craigslist ad. Again, we're going to give you the copy for that in the download, so check it out. Make sure you can download that. We're going to want to post our ads on LinkedIn. We're going to want to post it on Facebook. We're going to want to post current employee testimonials. So literally, if I can, I'd like to get video testimonials from my current employees or my current, and by the way, let's call them team members, not employees, because the reality is that's the environment we want to foster. But I want to get testimonial videos from my team members that I can post and give links to when I'm posting my ads, because now people can go to that and they can say, wow, that person seems to like their job. Maybe that's something I should apply for. Remember, the goal of posting the ad is to get as many people to apply as possible. And ideally, we want to get as many of the right people to apply as possible. Also, I'm going to ask my broker for referrals. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Broker in the office, who do you know that's maybe a good candidate for an assistant for our team or for a buyer's agent for our team? They will know. You'd be surprised. And it may not be somebody in the office. It might be another agent from outside the office, but they may be able to point you in the right direction. I'm going to email all the agents in the MLS and see if they're interested, because there's a lot of agents out there that maybe got into the business thinking that they were going to be a rock star real estate agent, and then they found out that well, it just didn't quite go like they wanted. Or maybe they're really good with buyers, but they're not really excited about working with sellers, or they haven't had as much success with sellers. So maybe they want to be a buyer's agent, and maybe they're really good at working with buyers, they're just not great at getting the leads. Well, these are all reasons why someone might want to be on a team instead of being on their own. And there will also be agents out there in your marketplace that might know of somebody that's looking for a job. Maybe they have an assistant and they just aren't doing as well as they need to be able to keep that assistant. And rather than just firing that assistant or laying them off, they'd like to help that person out because they feel a connection there. They might want to refer them to your team so they don't feel like they're letting that person down. Lots of reasons why you should reach out to the agents. Flyers in those agents' boxes. All kinds of stuff. So let's assume now that I've got my ads out there, and I've got the right ad because you've downloaded it on our download. So I've got the right ad out there that's going to attract the right candidates. And now I've got all these people that have come in that are interested in this position. Next thing I want to do is I want to set up a group interview. Yes, it's a group interview. I do not want to do one-on-one interviews. What a colossal waste of time and a huge time suck. Don't do that. So when I'm setting up the group interview, I'm not going to tell them, hey, by the way, would you like to come in for a group interview? I'm not going to do that. Why? Because a lot of people just wouldn't want to do it. What I am going to do is I'm going to pick an odd time, right? So I'm going to say something like, hey, I want you to arrive promptly at 10:05. I've got you scheduled for 10:05. If I give them an odd time, the chances of them showing up on time go up dramatically. So give them an odd time so it feels to them like it's very specific to them. Then, when everybody shows up, am I going to have a few people that are going to be upset? Absolutely. Litmus test number one. This is going to tell me if somebody's upset at this point in the process, do I really want them on my team? Heck no. That's not the kind of person you want to have on your team. I want people that are flexible, people that are team players, and people that are willing to do whatever it takes to be on this team because they get that this team is filled with rock stars. That's the kind of person I want on my team. So once I've got them in the room, I'm going to spend 30 minutes maximum, usually less than that, but I'm going to spend somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes telling them about the company history, a little bit about my own personal backstory. I'm going to tell them about what the team does and how we do it. I'm going to teach them what this position is being hired to do. So what would your job look like if you were a member of this team? Well, let me tell you. I'm going to talk to them about hours, pay, why the team is special, all this stuff that everybody in the room is going to want to know. I'm going to cover that in the group format. So I'm pre-selling them on wanting to be a part of the team. And some of those people might be pre-opting them out, right? Some of these people might be hearing me say these things and they might think, that's not for me. Okay, no problem. So that's great because if it's not for you, I don't want to interview you, period. So I get through that. Now I'm going to move them to the one-on-one interview. So I'm going to let them know, hey, those of you that feel after hearing all of this that this team might be a good fit for you, we're going to now do very quick 5-minute or less one-on-one interviews. This is your opportunity to just chat with me privately and my opportunity to chat with you privately, and we're going to get to decide whether or not we think it's a good enough fit to move to a more detailed interview. Because let's face it, in 5 minutes of sitting with each other, we're probably going to know whether or not it's worth moving on. Not. And so we're going to do the 5-minute interviews first. So I line everybody up, we do our 5-minute interviews. When I'm done with my 5-minute interviews, all I'm deciding now is who do I want to move to a second one-on-one interview, which is going to be more like a 15 to 30-minute interview. So at those 5-minute interviews, I will schedule them for their 15 to 30-minute interview. And I'm not going to do all these folks. I really want to whittle this list down. If I started off with 40 people in the room, I'm going to whittle my list down to maybe 8 to 10 maximum. Probably going to whittle it down to like 4 from those initial 5-minute interviews. Because I really don't want this to suck my life away, do I? I want to find the right person as quickly as possible and be as efficient with their time and mine as possible. All right, so once I'm done, I'm going to pick the person that I really want to hire out of that interview. And so out of those top 2 or 3 candidates, I'm going to be asking them things like, tell me a little bit about you. What do you feel? Why do you feel like we're a good fit? Tell me what I can't read in your resume that I need to know to help me make a decision on whether or not to hire you. These are all things that I want to have kind of in that 15 to 30-minute interview. When I'm done with that, I'm going to go to a final interview. So I've got it down to my top 3. We're going to a final interview here, right, with me. There's one more coming up, but this is the final interview with me. I'm going to go deep on the stuff that's in their resume. I'm going to start asking them questions like, why did you leave this job? Why was there this long period of unemployment? I want to know on each job why they left, what they were making when they were at that company. I want them to define their dream job. I really want to get a feel for who is this person? What do they really want? And am I going to be able to retain this person long term? Or am I setting them and I up for failure by bringing them on the team? I also want to find out, what do they not prefer about their next job or their previous jobs, and how would their supervisor describe them? I want to know all the things that they liked, that they didn't like, and again, what others, whether it's their supervisor or coworkers, would say if I were to interview them. All right, I want to find out about the skills that pertain to this position that I'm hiring. What skills do you have that pertain specifically to this type of a position? I want to know what the lowest pay rate they would expect is. Why do I want to know this? I want to know this because some people have unrealistic expectations on wages, and I need to know going into this if this person's unrealistic. And if they come to me and they've got no experience in the industry, and they're coming to me and they're saying, well, I want $30 an hour. Well, you're in the wrong place. So frankly, I'm not sure that those kind of entry-level positions even exist out there. So I want to be very, very real with them about compensation right from the get-go. I also want to find out, what rate do you want to earn? What rate would you like to earn long term? And then we talk about, well, what do you think it would take to get there? So I can kind of gauge, do they have realistic expectations as well in terms of long-term income? And then I want to find out if they have any questions for me. And also at this point, I want to review their DISC profile. So I've already at this point asked them to fill out a DISC profile, and now I'm going to discover if their DISC profile is something I think will match this position. Then, after all is said and done, and I've got it down to that one person that I feel like, this person's fantastic, I would love to hire this person. Now I'm going to have them do a final interview with my Club Wealth coach. Your Club Wealth coach is already has hired people. If you're coaching in Tier 2 or Tier 3 or Tier 4, your Club Wealth coach has hired lots of people in the past, and so they know how to do this probably a lot better than you do. Take advantage of them. They will actually do that final interview for you and let you know how they feel about that particular candidate. And if you have other members on your team, other assistants, other buyer's agents, at this point, after your coach's interview, after everything else is done, at this point, I would highly recommend giving each person on your team 5 minutes to interview this person. You're looking for them to throw up any red flags they might have. This is important because they're going to have to work with this person long term, and you need to make sure that you're not going to have a conflict of personalities that's going to prevent these two from working well together. So it's very important that everybody feel a part of this process, right down to the receptionist in the office, right down to every single employee, whether it's a runner, a receptionist, a buyer's agent, a listing, it doesn't matter. Everybody on the team gets their 5 minutes with this person. All right, so how do you pay your assistant? This is important. So many people ask me questions on, Michael, what's the structure for pay? How does this work? Well, one, you got to decide, am I going to pay him hourly or am I going to pay him commission? And let me tell you this, if I'm talking about any administrative positions, I need to be paying them an hourly rate, not commission. If I'm going to be paying a buyer's agent, and actually REO assistant is not the same, but if I'm paying a buyer's agent or an ISA, my buyer's agents and my ISA do like commission income. Generally speaking, a buyer's agent is going to be 100% commission based. An ISA or an inside sales agent is probably going to be a hybrid of hourly plus commission or salary plus commission. So knowing who you're dealing with, their personality type, the type of position we're dealing with, will dictate what type of pay structure I'm going to put in place. That being said, other than your buyer's agents, pay very close attention here. Other than your buyer's agents, every single other person on your team, and I'm sorry, listing agents as well, buyer's agents and listing agents, everybody that does not have a real estate license and is not 100% a buyer's agent or a 100% listing agent needs to be paid on a W-2. Now, a lot of you are going to argue with me about this, and so many people, I get this all the time. People love to tell me, oh, but Michael, that's not how it works. I've researched this, and I've looked at the guidelines, and I can get away with paying my people on a 1099. Good luck with that. You let me know how that goes for you when, not if, but when you get caught. Because when you get caught, it's not going to be a little slap on the hand. It's going to be huge fines. I've seen it happen. I've had it happen. Don't let it happen to you. Trust me on this. It's a lot cheaper to just pay them properly from the get-go. Pay them on a W-2. You'll be happy you did. All right. There's lots of companies out there that will handle your payroll for you. You don't need to know how to do this. How about Paychex? That's a great one. It's cheap. ADP, there's all kinds of them out there. We personally use Paychex. But there's lots of companies out there that will do this. There's companies out there that will also perform the HR function for you. So if you need help with HR, they can help you with that as well. But at the end of the day, make sure you're paying them properly. Take the burden off of yourself. Don't try and have your staff. It's not worth saving a few bucks to try and do your payroll in-house. Unless you've got 44 people on your team like we did, really just hire somebody like Paychex to do it. It's cheaper for you in the long run. Let your team focus on what they're best at. Now, that being said, don't be afraid of this process. It sounds more complicated than it is. There's a checklist for everything. Club Wealth members, ask your coach for the Trello checklist on how to hire an assistant. For everybody watching this video right now, I want you to go to the download. When you go to the download on this page, you're going to be, and if you're watching this on YouTube and you're not actually on the page, then just go to clubwealth.com/blog, find the blog on hiring an assistant, and you want to download the forms on that page. And what we're going to do is we're going to give you exactly what ads you need to run. We're going to give you the checklist on how you need to go through this hiring process. It's all going to be right there. Now, for those of you that are Club Wealth agents, so you're being coached by someone in Club Wealth, we've got a little extra for you guys. We're going to give you all the employment contracts as well that we use in Club Wealth. This is critical. You've got to have your employment contracts written properly, and you've got to know that you're not asking too much, that you're not asking too little, that you're not expecting too much, and yet that you've got the T's crossed and the I's dotted. We're going to give you all that. We're going to give you the I-9 and the W-4 forms that you need, all the government forms that you're going to need to make sure that you're doing this properly. We're going to give you the performance reviews that you're going to want to use long term. We're going to give you the job descriptions. We're going to give you the ads, the exact ads that we use to hire our team, and we're going to give you the interview questions as well. So take it all in. I hope this video has been helpful to you. Watch it again and again. Hopefully you took great notes. If you have any questions, feel free to jump on the Club Wealth Facebook group as well. Post your questions there. Ask us. Share your thoughts and ideas. Tell me if you thought this was a great video. You can post it right here on this page as well. We'd love to hear your comments. I personally respond to each and every one of those comments. So please jump in, be part of the conversation. And if you haven't already done so, please take a good look at Club Wealth. We've got tons of phenomenal coaches from all over the country that are absolutely the best of the best. They're wonderful people. They come from a position of contribution. They care about their agents that they coach, and they're here to help you, and they will take great care of you. So again, my name is Michael Hellickson, and for Club Wealth, I'm signing off saying, remember, you are world class.